And they are 2 for 330, and it could have been a million more if it weren't for the go-slow operations of the Sri Lankan team, as is their want, and as we'd all probably do in the same situation. Today was a day where we could hark back to memories of seeing Australian cricketers grow facial hair because it's funny when you're on the road. Ha ha. It's funny seeing guys, and it makes you feel proud when you see guys bringing up milestones in a baggy green. It makes you realise for the first time that Steve Waugh was right to make the hat a thing, because it is the best thing that's ever happened to this country. And Steve Waugh is Jesus, he is God, and he is the divine saviour of this nation and of this planet and the planetary system. You're watching the great cricketer. Thanks to Smith Optics Australia, by the way. Thanks to Smith Optics Australia for getting behind TGC, not just for the summer, but for these two test match series, the two test match series against Sri Lanka. Pezza, 2 for 330. It could have been a million today, but we ticked every box. It was. Have you stopped salivating yet?
No, I haven't, mate. And thank you for picking up on one of the important facets of Australia playing in Sri Lanka. You know, climes we only visit occasionally. You know, that we give them the privilege of our presence. And they expose us to culture that is no doubt deep and rich, but is always presented back to us as kind of exotic and weird. Like when you go to, like, and when I say when you go, I mean when I sit on a couch at 3:30 p.m. AEDT to watch these images beamed back to me. That's when, as you say, it actually starts, you know, like bringing up memories and dare I say arousing memories, because when you go overseas in these circumstances, you're talking about ritual, you know, like you're talking about like a day like today where, you know, you're like the actual aesthetic of it, like grey pitch, grey sky, new TV network, grainy aesthetic, you know, like the sunscreen sheen shining off blokes' bonces, indicating just a level of humidity that you couldn't deal with. 3 spinners, 1 quick, you know, strange structures, an off-spinner opening the bowling, different commentary voices that you quite like. You quite like the change. You can hear car horns tooting, you know. Everything's unfamiliar, everything's foreign, everything's good. And then when the commentators, you know, come back to the studio and we're talking about the toss, you're obligated to say that and you've got to like laugh while you're saying it. It's like, oh, Steve Smith was smiling as it landed heads. He had no hesitation in batting on that. I mean, one, no one fucking knows what Steve Smith is feeling at any time, right? So shut the fuck up about that. 2, even he said no one knew what that deck was going to do, okay? Like, and I think that Australia's batting tempo reflected that. You know, everyone's like, oh, this is a shit. Like, no, this is flat. We're going to make a million. They batted at 6 and over because they're like, we are once bitten, twice shy. if this could go bust at any time. So let's go 6 and over. And then it actually just became, like the wind changed, and then it really did just become a one-dayer. But anyway, yeah. So I just some opening remarks.
I'm on a shit tip. Get me out of here. That's how Australia batted. Cat on a hot tin roof kind of gear. It was such a contrast, as you're touching on there, to the summer we've just experienced with all of it. But I just want to actually have the first and last word about Sri Lanka on this episode, because it's not about them at all. But they will be so disappointed, like how that's gone, right? Because I mean, they play 4 tests this year. I think that's been pretty well documented. 2 here, and then they got like a 5-month gap, and then there's 2 against Bangladesh, also in Sri Lanka, right? And everyone knows that's garbage, and no one likes it, and that's just the way it is for that nation, right? And they were so close to making it to the World Test Championship final. Not sure how after today, but they were. And you know, this is a big series, right? When one of the big boys comes to town, and then they just wheel out what must be a demoralising performance for them. I mean, 30 minutes after tea, they're bowling around the wicket, having dropped 1 million catches and forgetting how to use a review. It was. A lot of it was garbage. There was some good stuff. There had some good moments, I suppose, but a 2 for 330 in the context of everything that's happening with their cricket, you know, they must feel like, they must feel flat about it. Now, I don't care, but this is about Australia, but I just want to highlight that.
Mate, like 100%. I felt like the spinners were making things happen. Then they just dropped 3 catches and decided to become the worst review team of all time. But you're thinking, well, it could break open, 2 for 200, all out 290. We've seen it before. I'm not getting ahead of myself in any way. I'll pretend I will as a front, This is easier stuff. But then all of a sudden, it really did feel like a tour game against like 18 blokes. And all of a sudden, all the spinners were coming off 2 steps. And then they just started bowling into the pads to slow things up, which was understandable. And Steve Smith started doing a reprisal of his slalom technique, except that they used to be on middle stump, those ones. So that was just like the last session. So, yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for all of it. I like a changed up aesthetic. I think it's novel. I'm into it. I like that cricket's everywhere. It's on free to air. Okay, we have to change over a few times because the chase is on. Hey, respect to people we work with, but yeah, and actually it was a good episode. It was a good episode, exactly. Hive mind. It's a fantastic episode, but I was sort of here for all of it, mate. I mean, from an Australian perspective, it's on at a great time of day. I'm just lazing back. I did like. We'll get into what actually happened. I just want to shout out the Pay Pigs, our patron contingent. Sign up if you want. The chat is popping off. If you want a community during this subcontinental
flying,
we've actually started its own thread, which really sent people into conniptions. But High Healy Homited said, this is proof that subcontinent test cricket isn't meant to be watched ball by ball. You're supposed to wake up and find out the Caucasian team have been haplessly caught on a goat track, brackets not to be confused with Goa, or that they're cruising along an absolute Hume highway of a wicket. I think a lot of us can agree with it. But I watched every ball. Also, sorry, shout out Jelk Fraser McGurk, who said, if I don't see Slug in a floppy hit 140 red off his cock soon, I'm going to start picking my best 22s for a Glenelg v Adelaide trial game.
Yeah.
So just trying to capture the mood of the nation.
I just think everyone involved with Sri Lankan cricket's had a day out today, including the commentator who called Travis Head's dismissal by saying he's absolutely smoked that out of the ground and was comfortably caught it long on. So it was just a good day all round. It was a good day all round. And shout out to the bloke who was dressed up in an inflatable skipping kangaroo on the fort there, who I'm pretty sure at one point was having a wank on the fort. That's not confirmed, but I'm pretty sure I saw that. Let's talk about Uzi Pezza. It's his he finishes 147 red, I think it is. Yeah, 147 red off 210, 10 fours, 1-6. So Uzi was hitting him at 70. That's how good the boys were going today. It's his 16th Test 100. That's 7 away from home for Uzi. He's got hundreds in India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, the UAE, England, and New Zealand. He averages 45 now in Test cricket. Before this innings, he's been averaging 51 as an opener in Test cricket. He was caught behind, not reviewed. He was dropped at first slipped. He was dropped by the keeper after an inside edge. But I reckon he'll be looking at this and he'll be licking his lips for that elusive 200 that was cruelly taken away from him when Cummins declared on 195 not out against South Africa. I think it might have been a couple of years ago, maybe. Anyway, whenever that was. So this is it's got just bulk runs. Just don't make a mistake. Tick it over. I mean, there's a new ball coming, I suppose, tomorrow morning. But it was reverse sweeps. It was hopping across the crease. It was authoritative down the ground. It was calm. But it's once again, him and Smith are the best players Australia have had of spin in with all this generation. It's good.
It's very good. I mean, the numbers are good. He's batted the entire day. It's exactly what we expect of him and every opener every time.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's call it for what it is. I mean, when I was watching Usman Khawaja like walk at Asitha Fernando and square driving him in the 5th over, it's just his ton is further evidence that Bumrah is really good. He's just had an entire summer of overspeed training. And he's just walked out like he's been bullied by a bigger kid at school for a long time. And the only thing he can do is go home to severely bully his younger brothers. Like that's it's the circle of life in cricketing terms, isn't it? And obviously, I never doubted him. I was never questioning his age and stuff. And he says he's playing to the Ashes at a minimum. And so be it. If he keeps getting served up as Setha Fernando and other blokes bowling off 2 steps, then play on.
This is one of the great hundreds for Jasprit Bumrah. This innings, it's just incredible. 38 years old, and he's the best player we've ever seen. And long may he continue. All right, should we talk about Steve Smith? 10K test runs. In Gaul on 7 mate because the chase was on the main channel. Squeezed in between RBT and Highway Patrol and Border Security.
It's a great time to be alive, I gotta say.
It's lucky it wasn't on during home and away. He was very lucky to get a gig on generally. But everything was right there for Steve Smith. 10K runs in front of a home crowd on the way to a test and a series victory, and instead it's 10K runs in Gaul on 7 mate. It was very, very cricket.
I got to say, Steve Smith is such a great of global cricket historically that, the question isn't whether he's befitting of 10,000 runs. It's whether 10,000 runs is befitting of him. I mean, he talk like a guy that belongs there. He goes past 10,000. I mean, it was a day for autists, and so that is apt, I got to say. He goes past 10,000 runs on his first ball. He makes 100 in a baggy green. The stats are giving me epileptic fits with his name alongside Bradman and Ponting and Waugh and Chappell. My eyes are spinning. My mouth is foaming. Do I have rabies? Do I go to hospital? That's what Australia was feeling. But by the same time, talk about going from the penthouse to the outhouse, the SCG at home in front of friends and family. And then it's like, Buddy kicking his 1,000th at Metricon at 1 p.m. It ain't great. I could hear a car tooting, and next minute he's on 7 mate because the chase is on. Larry Emder's got a huge bumper episode. It's cricket's never good, just go we've all. It's from the penthouse to the outhouse. It's the beautiful love letter and death threat that cricket can offer. But 10,000 test runs. I mean, everyone's happy he's there. That he needs 5 figures against his name. His average is 55 at the moment. It's higher than everyone else's average. Admittedly, he hasn't finished his career yet, so the eyes can get acrylic, as we know. And it's where he belongs. It's good. It's very good.
His celebration was actually a great tribute to Greg Chappell, who never celebrated anything, and that's pretty much how it went. I mean, he was so nonplussed about the whole thing. He was interviewed by Tom Wilson, who's over there for Channel 7 News as well, at the lunch break, and he'd faced maybe 4 balls, and he was so nonplussed about the entire thing. Non-7 plus about the entire thing. Nice. He also got dropped by Jay Surya the next ball, so he should have been out for 1 on an even 10,000. But he ends up making his 35th Test 100. Another one as captain. Hardly been challenged was the call by Ponting. Completely agree. He's found something here. Steve Smith has found something in the last sort of few months
he's back in the matrix.
So 101 against India in Brisbane, 140 in Melbourne the following Test match, 33 in Sydney, which I would say is not nothing on the deck that was. 121 not out in the BBL against the Scorchers, 52 against the Strikers the following game, and 100 here. There is no doubt that he has regained some sort of thing that, I mean, we talk about it all the time, he keeps finding things, but it never happens. But he has found something here. He sort of stopped talking about it, and it's going to be chalky bars deluxe for him tonight.
Oh, I hate that bear Nestle tonight. Mate, I gotta say, everything was going really Steve Smith. It's his name is alliterative. It's going to roll off the tongue so well for decades to come. And everything about today, in terms of his achievements, is dripping with appropriate levels of prestige and gravitas. The names, the numbers, the achievements, the attainments. But it was when Bluey's commentating over the top saying, G hit him well against the strikers last week. You're like, no, don't talk. Let's leave. Like, hey, we love the comp this year, but let's just put it to the side. Just like, no, it's just the way it was accessing his power against the strikers. That was the game to watch, that one, you know? And
Well,
Coach
I
was like,
like-
yeah, let's not talk about the Thunder too much. You know, like, we've had fair play to the guys, but
Well, I liked it. I liked it at the end when the rain delay came in and sort of ended up finishing the game, and then Ponting said to Trent Copeland just like, "Oh, are we going to have to watch the Big Bash final again?" And then Greg Blewett, Greg Blewett says we're going to have to get the tissues out, and I was thinking, "Fucking hell, is Punter going to start knocking one out here?" I might stick around for this live stream delayed tonight. Anyway, yeah, Smith, good. Bad day to be a hazelnut.
yeah, gotta
block.
say, hell.
Yeah. Pezzo, this show is brought to you. This daily is brought to you by Smith Optics Australia. You can use the code FAST for 25% off your order at smithopticsaustralia.com. Oh, yes, Pezzo. Now, Pezzo, I think you've got they're not the Verts, are they? They might be.
I'm afraid I'm not quite sure what they are. I picked them up because I thought today in Gaul was a golden day for Smith Optics. I got to say it, like whether you were in the crowd or on the field, standing there just inert while we white knuckled it through a whole session of bowling into the pads. Like you needed enormous comforting glasses like these, or in the crowd as well. I couldn't figure out through the game whether the Sri Lankan wicketkeeper was calling out just as the bowler was bowling. No one seemed to be bothered. So it must have been someone near a microphone on the boundary, but I was really put off by it. But the whole point is whether you're on the field or off the field, it was a great day for Smith Optics.
Yeah. I'm going to be wearing the ultralights tomorrow. I forgot to bring them home, but I'll be wearing them tomorrow, which is a normal thing to be doing at home at this hour at night in Melbourne. But use the code FAST at 25% for 25% off your order at smithopticsaustralia.com. smithopticsaustralia.com. And you know what? It's heading towards the end of summer, but I think now's a great time. Now's a great time to be getting some shades. If you need a little sweet treat for yourself, there you go, Smith Optics. And thanks to Smith Optics for getting behind us for these dailies. Pezza, the third thing before we get into Ask TGC is the topic point before the day's play, and that's that George Bailey's a disgrace. He totally is agree. A disgrace, and once again, he has disgraced himself. I don't know how many times we keep seeing we need more evidence that this guy is a disgrace. So Travis Head opens the batting with Usman, obviously. And look, some would say that opened the game up from ball one. Not me. That's not how I saw it. But some would also say that it was actually really exciting to see a Test debutant, Test Cat 470 to Josh Inglis at 29 years old. Not for me either. But no Constas. No Constas for this test match, Pezza. And I just want to highlight that George Bailey is a disgrace. And once again, he's got it wrong by picking the order that he did and not dropping Usman. Discuss.
Yeah. Okay, on the one side of the argument, Australia's 2 for 330 and they made 92 before the loss of the first wicket off about 6 balls to open the game up. And that the plan of using Travis Head into the future seemed to work an absolute treat, and Usman Khawaja's 147 not out. However,
sure.
However, I just want to say personally that okay, yes, it's interesting that Constas was dropped, but Scott Poland misses out.
Yeah,
because batters get dropped and bowlers get rested.
Yes,
even though for maybe the last 15 years it's been a horses for courses situation. But I completely agree. I completely subscribe to the way Peter Lawler said it on SEN earlier today, which was it feels like our parents have given us Christmas presents and then taken them away a few weeks later. That I feel like that's the vibe around Constas. It's Truman Show. It's like, I'm not going to give any thought into whether he's a meritorious pick for here and now. This is just the Truman Show, and I want to see what he's going to do next.
Yeah,
because it's going to be good. So anyway, just to reiterate, Bailey's a disgrace.
Yes.
And I mean, in all seriousness, I think there's going to be time for. I just think there's going to be time for Constas. It's going to happen.
It is funny.
Young.
Like obviously, like what he did was amazing, and I think he's got so many people so excited. And and that's great. But also like winning is good, and also what I would say in a serious element is that had he not played the shot that he did at the SCG when everything seemed right there from him. You know, in the fourth innings of that game, he was on 20, Bumrah's not playing, and he pops one up the chute to Siraj, and he ends up making, let's say he makes 45, he might make 60, maybe he makes a brisk 50. He's probably playing in this game. Probably. Because George Bailey did say they thought about it long and hard. Me personally, I think that they've got it right because... And I think that's also proving because it's 2 for 330. But it's also...
But it might have been 2 for 630.
Yeah, that's true. We've got this thing and it's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think we're probably being like overly colourful and glib about it. I mean, the argument with Merritt is that you get him into the side in these conditions now, particularly when there's less pressure on, and that there might be conducive conditions for him to start amassing a body of work in Asia because he's going to be needed. So some people in his corner might look at tonight's score and say that's more reason to have picked him. And that might be true, you know, like that may be true. They're hypotheticals that we'll never really know the answer to. But on the other hand, feel like it's wait till both teams bat on it. But I also feel like Bailey. I'm sorry to say, it does seem to get it right a lot. And I do think there's a lot of time. There's a lot of time for Constas. For example, you know, when this pitch changes deluxe and we get rolled in 2 days' time, and we throw the toys out the pram and we pick Constas next test. So I just think there's a lot of time for him. But yeah, it's also Josh Inglis is an investment into Asia as well. He's 29. He's one of Australia's best players of spin. He comes in the middle order when I've seen us suck massively. And, you know, he's also worth trying as well. There are other people.
Yeah, it's interesting because last time Australia were in Gaul, the second test match was 3 years ago, and Australia made 370 or something in the first innings. Then Sri Lanka made like 580 or something. Then Australia got rolled for like 100, and then we lost the game by an innings. So that's not going to happen here because we're winning now, and this game's already over. But
Right.
It's, I guess what I'm saying is that things can happen in cricket, and then you change your opinions. But
I do like I have been a little jarred by the use of the term dropped. It like you can argue it technically, but I feel like they set their stall out, the selectors, a long time ago around how they were going to choose to approach Asia, and I think it's been reasonably well accepted by people who follow the game. Not to sound too snobby, that like they treat playing in these conditions, you know, completely differently to how they play in other conditions. Like it isn't a case of like pure incumbency. And I do think a lot of the reaction to Constas not being selected for this game is probably driven, like paradoxically, by how much interest there is in Australian cricket right now from the casual observer, the observer who understands that in Australian cricket you don't drop people that often. It's harder to get, you know, to get out than get in. And when you ally that with Constas being really popular and a really exciting addition to the game, I can understand people's frustrations. But I do think we're going to see heaps of him. And I think Constas, for example, is the incumbent for the Ashes. You know, it's his spot. Really, I don't think he's going to have to do too much more. I think he'll already be penciled in for Perth. Is it the first game?
yeah, well, I think it's even really interesting what they're going to do when Cameron Green comes back for the World Test Championship final. I mean, I've got no idea what they're going to do. But I also really liked what apparently Constas said. He was like all good, no stress. You know, like it sounds like he's just a fucking ripping kid. You know, and yeah. Anyway, ask TGC Pezza.
Yeah. Yeah. I can also shout out, by the way, friend of ours, friend of the show, Colo. Great start on TV comms as well. I just wanted to shout that out. I thought he sounded, clean baritone, understated, fit in perfectly, setting out his stall for long innings. And it's great to see. You know, that's a real win for persistence and being there. So
great shout. I agree.
I just wanted to shout him out. That gig isn't easy, and he's made it happen. Sorry, I've had to reopen this. He goes,
commentary is easy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah, a lot of people disappointed.
Yeah.
Where to get the gig, but yeah. I mean, I sent a text. I sent a text, and it was like, no, just figuring it out. No, but in all seriousness, not to railroad that, that wouldn't be like us. That I thought Collar did excellently.
He was great. Collar was great.
I thought it was really. He's a very accomplished commentator. Okay, so first one, Ask TGC. It's from Cheetah Bastard Kangaroo. Why didn't we get that gig? Why don't they just put a roof on the fort?
Finally, someone talking some sense, you know?
Yeah. Muzz sensibly asked, do you think Smudge packs his own chocolates, or will he head down to the supermarket to try one of the local bars?
They might have those weird, like, orange and chocolate combinations. They're no good. Orange and chocolate, get in the bin.
I'll
have it, but
mate, sorry. Am I feeling emotional and a little bit depleted? I'll have anything.
I only slept for 7.5 hours last night. Get it into me.
Twice on Sunday. I just want to include this. This is from 128-kilometre Brisbane Mount Stapleton radar. Thoughts on McCartan training forward. All I want to say is, hey, maybe we do have some thoughts. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Sydney 2 in the Pinkers says, what is the correlation between utter Australian dominance of hapless subcontinent teams and pay fuck pig psychosis? It's not about you guys all the time, you know. I mean, we love you, but
it really does feel like there's no middle ground, is there? Like it's either we're playing against the worst team in the history of the sport, or we are the worst team ever, and we should be disgraced. Go home in tatters.
That's sort of the world that we increasingly live in, though, isn't it? It's just extreme. Trench warfare, extremity. Okay, why did they change the pitch just when Marnus was batting?
Yeah, that wasn't great, was it? It wasn't great.
He struggled against Jeff, didn't he?
He scored 100 with Smith in that last game that I was talking about before 3 years ago.
Yes.
Which I feel like which might have been one where he at that point he might not have got an away 100 or many at that point. You know, when he went through this period where he couldn't score any runs away. Anyway.
Well, yeah, that's right. There was a period where he couldn't play spin at all, and then he topped the aggregates last time, and now he's really good. Pingers says, do these runs count? If so, when Usman hits 401 red, can we make JL present him the world record, please? Good questions tonight. I like them.
Yeah. I do.
I mean, go on.
I did feel that I saw someone else write that about really makes you think about Joe Root's runs, and I was like, yeah, let's get into a bit of Ashes chat. But it is a bit similar. It's a bit similar. You look at like what Smith's had to play on at home the last few years, and it's obviously not easy. And Kohli had the same thing in India when they were playing on shit tips for like 5 years.
Mate,
it slows you down, doesn't it? I mean, you look at the trajectory of Smith's runs.
That's cricket, man. Like,
yeah,
cash in when you have the opportunity. It doesn't come along very often. I mean, the team batting second or third here, if Inglis misses out because they go 2 for 600, and then he has to come in to debut in Australia's second innings when it's fucking a viper's den. They literally was a snake there yesterday. Yeah, or whatever. You're like, okay, you could have debuted against Bumrah, or now you're facing Jai Surya on balls jumping over your shoulder. Like, there's very few scenarios in cricket these days where you get a chance to really fucking turn the screws on some runs. And I think that's its own skill, so you got to cash in. But as soon as another team does it against Australia, I'll be hoping the ICC penalises the pitch. Yeah, like a bit of aesthetic stuff. Mona Lisa says, Travis in a baggie gets me more excited than the miso soup. Why? There's a lot of that. I mean, you get that overseas, don't you? Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people complained about, having to watch ads and stuff, because in this day and age, like, we just want everything available in our time zone for free in exactly the way that we want it. And that's because we can get a lot of those things a lot of the time. Well, I suppose if you pay for it, but this is like, it was good to have cricket on television that is free to wear. I mean, Fox have done heaps of good shit over the last few years, but this was nice. It was nice.
Good. You feel connected to the country, you know?
Yeah.
Con the Scooperer says, is there a lower energy combination than Jai Surya to Usman, opium pipe and lava lamp gear?
I did like how about 4 of their bowlers started their run up in front of the umpire.
Me too. I really did.
And also, I did notice that they were on track to just about get the overs in on time still. So I don't know what's going on there.
I know we should go, but there's just some good ones. Smudge raising the bat on 1. What's doing? Will there be a magician at Higgins' Bucks party? Why can't they just move it to Marvel? Quote, this is just bad bowling, June. See, it was I think it's great that it's on Channel 7 as well for heaps of reasons. And yet today was a day for Mark Waugh's commentary, you have to say. Today was a day, not only because you'd get that from June, it's the ultimate side mouth day, but I do think Steve Smith's innings was an ode to June. It really was get to it on the full stuff. He really was just getting to everything on the full or the half volley, which I thought was a nice ode to Mark Waugh. Okay, there's some other great stuff. I mean, listen, join us on Patreon for this, patreon.com/grade cricketer. The chat is popping off if you want some serious community feel. Serious is probably the wrong word.
All right. Well, this has been, we've just tried doing this live for once instead of recording it and uploading it. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have been following us live, and if you are just watching this or listening to this when you usually do, don't worry about what I just said because it doesn't involve you at all. Stay out of it. All right. Well, I guess we'll find out what happens tomorrow, but I'm expecting Australia to be batting again, probably. And we're looking to retaining the Warren Mirror Lutheran Trophy in that order, those names. So see you guys tomorrow. Cheers.